At a press conference in Oslo surrounded by Nordic leaders, a journalist asked Mark Carney a question that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. If a country within NATO tries to take over Greenland, would Canada contribute military forces and actually resist? The question was directed at the Canadian Prime Minister alongside leaders from Norway and Denmark. And the fact it needed asking revealed how dramatically security has changed. Because the NATO country being referenced, whose Greenland ambitions had alarmed Europe, was the United States itself. Carney's answer was measured but unambiguous. Canada stands foursquare behind sovereignty and territorial integrity. It is for Greenland and Denmark to decide their futures. Canada will back that with measures as necessary. He did not elaborate. He did not need to. The message was clear. If the United States or any power attempted to seize Arctic territory, Canada would not stand aside. It would defend sovereignty alongside allies who share the same values. That Oslo moment was not just diplomatic statement. It was public unveiling of a strategy Carney has been building quietly for months. A strategy ensuring Canada's Arctic security no longer depends on Washington's political whims. And the mechanism is a coalition of democratic nations capable of defending the Arctic collectively without American permission. For decades, Canada's defense was built around U.S. integration. Through NORAD, NATO, procurement contracts favoring American suppliers. The numbers Carney disclosed made that dependence stark. Historically, when Canada spent on defense procurement, over 70 cents per dollar went to the United States. Not just to American companies in Canada, to the United States itself. Canadian military infrastructure, surveillance, communications were built around American technology, supply chains, and ultimately American political decisions. That worked while the United States remained predictable and reliable. But Trump shattered that assumption. He launched trade wars against Canada, threatened tariffs on steel and aluminum, openly floated acquiring Greenland, shocking governments that assumed Arctic sovereignty was settled law. He demonstrated American commitment to allies was conditional, transactional, subject to domestic political calculations. For Canada, this raised an existential question. What happens when your security partner becomes the threat? Carney's answer, revealed in Oslo, is diversification. Not abandoning the U.S. relationship, but ensuring Canadian security cannot be held hostage by any single Washington leader. The way to achieve that is building a broader network of defense partnerships with countries sharing Arctic geography, democratic values, and strategic concerns about great power competition in the High North. Coalition includes Norway, a NATO member sharing an Arctic border with Russia, Denmark, governing Greenland and alarmed by Trump's acquisition suggestions, Iceland, strategically important beyond its size, Sweden and Finland, recently admitted to NATO and concerned about Russian aggression, and Canada, controlling more Arctic coastline than any nation and sitting atop critical mineral reserves worth trillions. These countries share vulnerability. They are middle powers caught between great powers using economic relationships and security commitments as coercion instruments. Russia threatens with military force. China invests in infrastructure for influence. And the United States under Trump uses trade pressure and alliance commitments as leverage. For these countries, relying on American protection increasingly looks like dependence that can be weaponized. Carney's Oslo coalition offers an alternative. Collective defense not depending on a single power. Joint procurement reducing dependence on American suppliers. Intelligence sharing operating independently of Washington's approval. And shared commitment to defending sovereignty against any power attempting to override the principle that borders cannot change by force. The Arctic itself is becoming one of the most contested regions on Earth, and that contest is accelerating. Melting ice is opening shipping routes that could cut weeks off traditional trade corridors between Europe and Asia. Energy reserves previously locked under ice are becoming accessible, and critical minerals essential for batteries, semiconductors, and advanced manufacturing are attracting global attention. Lithium, cobalt, nickel, rare earth elements. The materials that define the future of energy and technology. And much of it sits beneath Canadian Arctic territory. Russia has been expanding its military infrastructure across the Arctic for over a decade. Bases, airfields, submarines capable of operating under ice. China has declared itself a near-Arctic state despite being thousands of kilometers away and is investing heavily in northern shipping routes and resource extraction projects. And Trump's Greenland comments revealed that even traditional allies might view Arctic resources as targets for acquisition rather than sovereign territory to be respected. For Canada, this creates a strategic imperative. If you cannot defend your Arctic territory, if you cannot assert sovereignty over your resources, then other actors will fill the vacuum. And once they establish presence, removing them becomes exponentially harder. That is why Carney's $40 billion Arctic investment, announced weeks earlier, matters so much. It is not just about buying equipment. It is about establishing permanent Canadian presence across territory that represents 40% of Canada's landmass. Land, sea, and air, 365 days a year. Not seasonal patrols. Continuous operational control. But hardware alone is not sufficient. You also need partnerships with countries that share your interests and are willing to coordinate when threats emerge. That is what the Oslo Coalition provides. Norway brings decades of experience operating in Arctic conditions and defending against Russian pressure. Denmark brings governance experience in Greenland and understanding of the political dynamics that shape Arctic policy. The Nordic countries bring technological expertise in cold weather operations and surveillance systems. And Canada brings geography, resources, and the political will to invest in defending what it controls. What Carney revealed in Oslo is that Canada's defense procurement strategy is changing fundamentally. The 70% that historically went to the United States will now be distributed more broadly. Not 0% to America, but much more to partners who are willing to build joint capabilities, share technology, and create supply chains that do not depend on any single country. This is not about punishing the United States. This is about ensuring that Canada can operate independently when necessary. The strategic implications are profound. If Canada successfully builds this coalition, if Arctic nations begin coordinating defense procurement and intelligence sharing outside American frameworks, then Washington loses leverage it has wielded for decades. American defense contractors lose guaranteed access to Canadian budgets. American surveillance systems lose automatic integration into Canadian networks. And American political leaders lose the ability to assume Canadian compliance because there are no alternatives. Carney's strategy is not confrontation. It is optionality. Build enough alternatives that dependence becomes choice. Establish enough partnerships that no single relationship can be weaponized. And demonstrate enough capability that other powers understand attempting to coerce Canada will be more costly than negotiating with Canada as an equal. The question the journalist asked in Oslo about defending Greenland was really asking something deeper. Will Canada stand up to the United States if American actions threaten the sovereignty of allies? Carney's answer was yes. Not with hostility, not with confrontation, but with clarity about principles and willingness to back those principles with action. Sovereignty matters. Territorial integrity matters. And the right of nations to determine their own futures matters more than the preferences of powerful neighbors. What happened in Oslo could mark the beginning of a new security architecture for the Arctic, not dominated by a single power, not divided into competing spheres of influence, but defended collectively by nations that actually live there and share a commitment to rules-based order. If that coalition succeeds, Canada will no longer be a junior partner dependent on American protection. It will be a central power in one of the most strategically important regions on Earth. And the 70% that once flowed automatically to the United States will instead build capabilities that serve Canadian interests first. The transformation is already underway. The investments are being made. The partnerships are being formed. And the world is watching to see if middle powers can build security frameworks that do not depend on great power patronage. Carney is betting they can. And he is building the proof in the Arctic, one partnership, one procurement decision, one clear statement of principle at a time.